Welcome back to Beyond the Beltway. Now we're going to go south of California through Central and South America. We're going to talk with Randy Airtrail. Good to have you, Randy.
Hi, thank you.
And Randy, before we talk about El Salvador and immigration issues, which are very important to all of us all around the country, especially after 9/11, its impact on people coming and free trade, I just want to ask Melanie a question or two. You're a Catholic, and you have been feeling the whole story of the abuse of the priest. What's your take on it all?
Well, my take is this. You know, in a world where you can't be appalled by anything anymore, this is appalling. And what is so appalling about it, not just simply the crimes committed against children, and that is utterly, probably the lowest form of life in the world as an adult who victimizes a child, but the failure of the Pope, the U.S. Cardinals, to recognize what time it is. Yeah. This is all a medieval response. The idea that they're going to stop short of one strike. How many children do have to be violated? One child is enough. That's the end of the story. We're going to talk about notorious abusers as opposed to notorious abusers.
No,
I mean, I think that what is going to happen now, it's out of the church's hands because they have refused to respond forcibly. As in all crises of this nature, it's going to be the law and the legal system. You wait until Roger Mahoney is put on in a sworn deposition, what he knew, when he knew it, why he transferred priests, and they're going to go across the country with those depositions. And guess what? The law is going to do what the church will not do. So I am appalled and fallen away because I cannot stand or nor accept a church who would permit the violation of children and not treat the priests involved as criminals.
Well, I couldn't agree. I'm a Catholic too, and I couldn't agree more. I mean,
and
I just think
most Catholics agree with both of you.
I think letting this Cardinal Law sit in Boston every day he's allowed to sit in Boston as the Archbishop of the diocese says just how little the Catholic Church cares about solving this problem. I mean, I think it's an abuse of the children. I think it's abuse of the people who are Catholics. I just can't. I'm just outraged beyond belief.
And one thing I'd ask you, you know, how can you have a priest yesterday arrested at 71 who systematically between the ages of 6 and 12 took a boy out of the classroom, took him to bathrooms, the rectory, and to different places to rape him? How can that priest be transferred to California?
Yeah, I think that it's an issue that doesn't just happen in the church. I think other institutions also have that type of abuse to children.
Yes,
and it needs to be denounced and not allowed at all. I mean, or the thing is that they try to hide the problem. I mean, Mahoney has tried to fix the problem by coming out and being upfront about it, but the damage has been done, and I think it should not be tolerated. It's unacceptable.
Well, do you think in Central and South America, which are very Catholic, you know, that obviously these abuses are worldwide? I mean, they're discussed in the United States right now, but a lot of the priests are transferred all over the planet. I read an article the other day in the New York Times that talked about this priest to go in all these South American countries. Is it shaking the faith in Central and South America? How are Catholics responding?
I think it's divided. I think that some people are blind and they want to be faithful to the church and not condone that, but say that there are mistakes. But I think that's not the right attitude. There's some people who have been abused in Latin American countries because the church is so strong, they're so powerful, and they usually try to hide it, and that's the problem. I think it no longer can be hidden. It needs to be denounced, and the Pope, I think, did the correct thing by calling all the cardinals to go to the Vatican, but I think that there should be repercussions, and there shouldn't be priests that should be allowed to go to countries in Latin America.
He refused to go along with zero tolerance, and he refused to apply it to the priests who are now in the church.
Well, let me say this because we want to get on to the other issues. I'm Catholic too. I'm one of 8 children. I was an altar boy, and I had Sisters of Charities in New Jersey, St. Cecilia's, and Carmelite priests, and Benedictines when I went to college. And I think one of the solutions is the laity it's our church too, you know.
Right.
And it's not just the hierarchy telling us everything anymore that we're going to tolerate. Many of us, frankly, in the Catholic Church believe that women should be priests and that married people should be priests and that it should be a more open process and not such a big top-down from the Pope through the cardinals, and we're just the flock, because we, the laity, also in this new millennium feel that we should be empowered and have rights. And hopefully this will be a healthy outcome of what is a major crisis in the church. Let's talk about immigration for a second. We all are immigrants except for the American Indian, and even they came down 1,000 years ago or whatever. So this was a great land, and we're all happy to be here. In fact, more people come here now than anywhere else on earth, and they come from everywhere, and it's because we are the hopeful place on the earth, the place where you can make a living and get on with your life. And this is the beauty of our great nation. The strength comes from the immigrants. How is this free trade business, the president was dealing with free trade and immigration, going to come together?
Yeah, President W. Bush, he went to Latin America on around March 24th. He went first to Mexico, then to Peru, and then to El Salvador to promote free trade agreements with each of those regions.
Yep.
And we felt that it was good. It was good that he went. It was a good sign. It was the first time that a U.S. president actually went to Peru in South America. We were happy in El Salvador that he went. But we wanted him to discuss environmental protections when he talks about free trade, labor protections, human rights protections, and immigration. And that's an issue that he purposely ignored because it's very controversial. And we think that if they're going to talk about a free trade agreement, they have to talk about immigration and how to include people. Because when he went to Latin America, I think he didn't discuss the real issues, like the 3 million migrant worker issue with Mexico. I think that was ignored because after September 11th, they didn't want to talk about legalizing people. And then El Salvador, he wants a free trade agreement because he knows that people there are very entrepreneurial, they work very hard, but we don't want our people to be exploited. We want them to have labor protections. And we want to force him to take into account immigration issues and how to legalize Salvadorans that are already here and who deserve to become permanent residents because they were forced to migrate here.
Don't you think he was doing that prior to September 11th? I think more than he talked about it during the campaign. He actually made some movement in that direction, talking about how to do it. Would there be a second amnesty? That discussion was on the table, and certainly it was derailed by September 11th. But it's probably going to come back. I mean, I would imagine because it was on the president's agenda.
Yeah, it has to come back. I think that the general legalization issue of legalizing 5 to 8 million people in the U.S. is good, but we have to talk about immediate issues. And I think a couple of days ago they did the right thing by extending temporary protected status, TPS, for Hondurans and Nicaraguans. And now we're advocating for TPS to be extended for Salvadorans that will expire on September 9th. And TPS is given to countries that had civil wars or who've had natural disasters like the two earthquakes in El Salvador. And I think Colombians deserve TPS also.
Are they truly temporary?
Yeah, they're temporary.
People truly
they are.
use it as an asylum and then go back when the problems are over?
That's the issue that needs to be dealt with, that they were only given 12 months or 18 months to reside here, to obtain a work permit, to be able to send money back home to help rebuild their countries. But that issue needs to be resolved through a general earned legalization program, where actually you have to solve it by identifying people here for national security purposes and giving them an opportunity to become permanent residents. Because it's not good to have millions of people who are undocumented in the U.S. You need to know who they are, where they live, what they do, and the only way you're going to do it is by naturalizing them or giving them a permanent residency.
Yeah, well, when does this process stop, though? I mean, I'm for it right now, but I mean, I think the people who oppose this raise the right question, which is, that's our answer all the time to the fact that we have lots and lots of people who come in, immigrate, either under pretext or illegally.
That's why a free trade agreement that will take into account creating more jobs and opportunities in Latin America, that will reduce the flow of migration. And that was the plan with NAFTA. Unfortunately, it created more migration from Mexico.
Well, it created more of everything
So-
as opposed to the
But why are you advocating essentially you know, permitting people who have broken the law to benefit by it. And that's the problem I always come back to. And I think Pat's right. What you do with each amnesty, you ask a question whether this is it. And then then there's another incentivized group of people who come in the country illegally, and then you push for amnesty. I mean, do we have immigration laws that count?
Yeah, I don't think people have broken the laws. They've actually have been forced to come here because of U.S. foreign policy.
But that is a violation of the law.
It is, and the U.S. has broken the law
How has U.S. broken the law?
by giving military aid to some of these countries that
Well,
use them
El
for
Salvador,
military
I mean, we were,
purposes.
you know, when
That's
we-
what forced Salvadorans to come here, Nicaraguans, Honduras, and even people
Guatemalans,
from
that's true.
Central America.
The American international play squeezes some of those countries to such a degree that the people come here for salvation or for a
Bill,
better life.
Bill, remember, in Guatemala, when we overthrew, after this, with the time in 1953, we overthrew the Guatemalan elected president.
Yeah.
The 200,000 civilians between then and now were killed basically by military dictator regimes
the
that we
Contra
supported.
prisoners in
That we
Nicaragua.
supported. And the same thing in El Salvador with the right-wing death squads we supported. I mean, at the horror of this, the revolutionary nation, and what it has done, has created thousands and thousands of
What's your take on this Colombia business? We're at war there, actually, in the midst of it.
Revisited.
What's that about?
That's with Plan Colombia. They're asking the Colombian government is asking for billions of dollars to be given for, they say, economic aid, but a lot of times it's used for military purposes. It's a difficult situation there because you have a military and a guerrilla movement that really can't have a dialogue to try to bring peace. It's become very convoluted, and people are just randomly killing each other. They're kidnapping U.S. citizens in Colombia, which I think is not fair, it's not right, because they're innocent people that are being tortured and killed because of U.S. foreign policy. But those countries need to take responsibility in protecting human rights. And I think that a free trade agreement has to have human rights protections, labor protections, environmental protections. And if the U.S. is going to do the fast track for the free trade agreement, that would include Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia, and another country in South America, they should demand that U.S. citizens will be protected when they travel to those countries, and that this free trade agreements will not just exploit poor people, because a lot of times these free trade agreements exploit cheap labor. That's what they do.
Thank you,
cheap.
my friend.
So they need to protect labor rights.
Thank you very much for sharing with us your opinions on all those countries. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to thank my panel for being on Beyond the Beltway, discussing the issues we spoke about. Appreciate it very much. And I especially want to thank you out there for sharing your time with us. God bless you, and bye-bye.